Welcome to Leadership Speaking Radio, the podcast for leaders and changemakers who want to learn how to communicate with impact, authenticity, and human connection to their peers, teams, and customers in order to build better relationships, better their bottom lines, and become better leaders. My name is Dr. Laura Penn. I'm the founder of the Leadership Speaking School, and I'm your host. Visit my website, theleadershipspeakingschool.com, to find out more about how we can support you to show up as the best version of yourself every time you speak. Now let's get straight into our topic. Welcome back, everyone. It has been a minute or two since the last time that we communicated. I am so happy to be back here in this podcast container, in this studio, speaking to you. I have so much to download to you. A lot has happened since the last time that I touched base with you. And this podcast episode, which is episode number 65, I'm calling it Leadership Speaking. What's love got to do with it? Yes, love is in the air. I celebrate it by wearing red, by having hearts. These are a bunch of hearts here. If you are looking on video, I've got a bunch of heart pins. Love. This is a word, a concept, a thought for our time. I've been spending a lot of energy and time and attention lately thinking about love. In my journeys, most recently I've come back from Abu Dhabi, and I've been in Holland doing work with leaders and change makers, really supporting them with love as a teacher, but also teaching them how to show unconditional love to their audiences, to their peers, to their teams, to their stakeholders. In Abu Dhabi, I was working with extraordinary change makers, people between the ages of 25 and 35, who were geniuses in their fields. I was attending the IUCN World Conservation Congress. This is sort of like the Olympics for the wildlife and nature conservation community in the world. And it happens every 4 years. And this year it was in Abu Dhabi, and these change makers had been selected. There were 1,500 applicants. And 15 of them were chosen to show up in Abu Dhabi and to share their game-changing ecopreneurial pitches and ideas with this massive audience of many thousands of leaders and other change makers from around the world who cared about nature, loved nature, wanted to make the world a better place. These were the professionals of nature and sustainability showing up in this Congress. And my job was to support the change makers to create pitches that had a heartbeat, that touched the hearts and minds of the audiences at this Congress. And one of the most important things to do, besides them having worked on the pitch itself, to create it, to compose it, to pour love into the pitch, is they had to pour love into the delivery of that pitch. And it became very apparent that their audibility and the clarity of their speaking was paramount. A lot of people came from all over the world. It was extraordinary. The United Nations was represented. From every corner of the globe, these change makers were showing up, and many had very strong and distinctive accents from their countries. So a lot of the work that I did with them on site was to make sure that we could hear every single word. And this is an act of love. This is an act of love when you are rehearsing your content to make sure that your audience can hear every ending of every word that you speak, right? If you say the word stop, for example, there's a sound at the end that you're missing, and that is the P sound, the plosive, stop, right? These endings of words, the T's, the S's, the D's, the R's, we must hear them so that we as your audience, as your listeners, can close the thought. If that thought is left open by you saying stop, our minds are still busy trying to figure out what you've just said instead of paying attention to the next thought that's coming. So working with these change makers to make them audible was paramount. But beyond that work, ladies and gentlemen, just being on site in this gorgeous, massive venue in Abu Dhabi, where people were represented, as I've already said, from all over the world, people wearing their national costumes, leaders from indigenous groups showing up with feather headwear and the clothing that their communities wear. There were colors, there were details, there were beads, there were smiles, there were handshakes, there was hope, there was love. And I was in the exact place that I needed to be with the work that I could offer in this context. So it really filled me with this theme that I'm going to be sharing for the next couple of episodes here on Leadership Speaking Radio, love. We can't get enough of it, and there isn't enough of it. How about that? I really sense in every place I go, in everything I see, in what I consume in media, in what I observe in conversations, in what I see leaders, teams, and changemakers doing in their work. Love is at the heart of doing those things well, but I find it lacking. I don't see it where I expect it to be. And let me just digress for a second as a little segue back into love. My digression is this, that wherever I go, I've been in Holland and different places. As you already know, I've been in Abu Dhabi. I'm going to Norway soon. I'll be heading to China and to Cairo. Wherever I go, I find myself in an antique or a secondhand shop or market. Like, this is my jam. This is what I do when I travel the world. I seek out the old things so that I get a little sample of what used to be, of the people who came before. And if you've read any of my pieces on LinkedIn, my most recent one was called To Be of Use. It was all about relic hunting. So here I am ringing that bell again. What I want to say by talking about old things is that you can see the love that was put into making them. Whether it is a garment from the 1950s or a porcelain teacup that was made 100 years ago, or, much to my delight, recently in a secondhand shop in Holland, I found this old 1930s wooden radio. You know, the kind of radio that you see in movies about the Second World War, where the whole family is sitting around the radio and listening for updates about what was happening in the war. That kind of radio. I wanted to buy it, but I couldn't bring it home with me. I just wanted it close to me. I wanted to touch it. I wanted to look at the craftsmanship. I wanted to see the love. Because old things have this love in it. And if you're like me and you notice those kinds of things, you also notice in the new stuff that we have how there's an absence of love. If you've gone clothing shopping recently and you're looking for basics like t-shirts and socks and underwear, you'll see that those things, in most cases, at least where I shop and what I see, are made without love. The fabric is cheaper, the stitching is loose, strings are coming out. It doesn't feel robust. You wash it once or twice and it can't be used again. Where's the love? In home furnishings, things look great from a distance. You see a dresser with nice detailing, and then you go and you pull the drawer of the dresser to see how the drawer comes out, and the whole thing wobbles and it's coming apart. Where is the love? You hear a song on the radio, and, you know, I do a lot of working out. I keep fit. I work with a personal trainer, and I'm always listening to kind of the new music on the radio in my gym, and there isn't a single song that I sing the lyrics to. None that I remember. Nothing stays in my mind. There's no, what is that called? It's called an earworm. There's no earworm of the song in my head that plays over and over again. because the songs are hollow. Where is the love? I watch leaders and teams communicating around the world. Wherever I am, I see them. Before I start my work with them, I see them. And I see them just surviving. I see them just doing the basics, not preparing the delivery, preparing the content, yes, that 99.6% that I like to talk about. Yes, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted on those PowerPoint presentations, but there hasn't been any attention paid to the delivery, to the rehearsal of how to say the words that they've just spent so long trying to figure out. Where is the love? So that's why I'm talking about love in these episodes that I want to bring together now in this podcast. It's time to get serious about talking about love again. It's time to learn how to infuse it into the preparation of your work and into the delivery of that work so that people can feel things. Have you noticed that the things that make us feel things are under attack? Particularly, I feel this very strongly with the humanities. The humanities, of course, are the human arts, the things that humans have made, the crafts, the performance arts, the visual arts, the poetry, the philosophy, the things where humans are involved to their very deepest depth, the humanities. You know, I look around, I read a lot, and every headline that I'm seeing jumping out at me is about how the next generation, Gen Z, they won't have any jobs because AI is going to take over, AI this, ChatGPT that, tech this, right? It's in the headlines, it's everywhere. And what kind of skills do you need for the future? Well, you need to know how to do critical thinking, etc., etc., etc. And what nobody is talking about, and the ball that people have taken their eyes off of, is people are speaking a lot about code, but they are forgetting to talk about craft. They are not talking about the humanities. They are talking about the tech and innovation sector. They are not referring to the language of human arts, the creations of humans. They're referring to the creations of AI and technology. Now, don't get me wrong. We have to be having these conversations. But the alarm I'm ringing is let's not forget about the humanities. Because it's in the humanities that we express strong feelings, we people. It is in the humanities that we show things like love, theater, dance, music, Shakespeare, love, hate, emotions, strong feelings. This is the bastion of human sentimentality. And if we take our eyes off of that, if we stop learning about those things or listening to the music or watching the theater performances or dancing those dances, if we recklessly neglect those humanities, we are going to be diminishing something about ourselves as people. And taking it back to communication, if we don't have the humanities in the world that we are communicating in, we are going to be communicating in a hollow way. We are not going to be showing our emotions. We're not going to be touching heartstrings. We are not going to be using our voice, using prosody, creating melody, right? We are not going to be using flowery language, metaphors, similes. We are not going to be using repetition. We are not going to be creating images with our words for the eyes, ears, hearts, and minds of our listeners. So the humanities, love, craft, technology, all of these things are spinning around for me as themes. And it's another reason why I'm anchoring myself down into this podcast episode and talking to you about love. Leadership speaking. What's love got to do with it? In a word, everything. Love has to do with the very beginning, the first thought that you have about that communication you want to have with your audience. Because you want to serve them something. You want to give them something that heightens what they feel, what they know, and maybe even influence what they do. Love. You're going to put love into that thought. So you need to have time to develop those thoughts. I know a lot of people don't have time. Most people don't have time. I don't have time. You don't have time. But part of the love language of good communication is that you've made time. You've created time so that you have time to marinate about your thoughts and your ideas that you want to give and serve your audience. That's the first stage of showing love in the craft of leadership speaking. Planning out what you're going to do. What is that gift you're going to create for them? And then, of course, now you're going to get into the content. What are you going to say? Give yourself time to develop these thoughts. Marinate, journal, write things down in a special notebook. Have a time and a place where you can absorb these thoughts and capture them by writing them down. The content, of course, is where you pour your heart into your words. Love. What are you going to say that makes people's eyebrows rise up? How are you going to earn their attention? Because as you know from listening to my podcast over the years, I always say that attention is something that is earned from your audience. Just because you show up in front of them and are there to do the talking doesn't mean that their attention is with you, especially in this digital age where attention is so scattered. That focus, earning that attention, that's your start of the love language of the content. What bridge are you going to use to get into that earning? Are you going to ask a question? Are you going to pose a challenge? Are you going to make a bold and provocative statement? How are you going to capture those eyes and ears and earn that attention in the beginning of your content as you speak? And then what are you going to do to build bridges? As you talk and you're communicating in your content, how are you accessing the world and the needs and the interests of your audience? Are you speaking to those needs and interests? Are you identifying things that they care about? Are you using anecdotes and stories and the names of people in that community or examples of things of that community that they've done or that they can relate to? This is love. This is love in your composition. Love in the creation of this content. That care, that eye for detail, the painting of pictures. Not just the frames. You remember this. The frames, the facts, the figures, the details of the information, but not the details of the things that have pictures. Using the 5 senses to bring out and capture how something looks, feels, tastes, sounds, right? Creating pictures for people is an act of love. It's in our human design to see things through words. And your job as a good communicator is to create those pictures through your words. That's love. And love, of course, in the next phase of your creation, the rehearsal. And you know me by now. You know how important rehearsal is. You know that rehearsal brings you to a place of comfort. You also know that the average modus operandi for the leaders and teams that I work with, when I ask them about how they prepare is, well, they'll prepare the 99.6% of the content that's been done. And for delivery, this is a phrase that I tend to hear, or a version of this phrase. Well, I look over my slides, and then I think about what I'm going to say, and then I go and I say it. That's their delivery rehearsal. That's not good enough. that doesn't have any love in it. It has an absence of love, and it will create a hollow speaking performance because those words that they've worked so hard to create have not been embodied. They have not been placed into the human body, into the container, the being, and worked. The breath has not spoken the words. The hands have not shown the detail. The feet are not anchored to the floor. Those words lack love. They will lack prosody. They will sound dry. They will sound broken and like there's nobody home behind them, because there isn't. Unless you rehearse and say the text that you've been working on out loud, not in your head, that doesn't count, out loud with spoken words, that's rehearsal. And the more high stakes something is, the more you have to rehearse. The more you have to embody those words so that they become a part of your DNA. You've heard me say this before. Yeah, for those talks that really matter where you're being judged or it's being filmed, or, right? Or there's some legacy involved or your reputation is at stake, those are the high stakes talks. A TED Talk, for example, is a ultimate version of a high stakes talk. Those talks have to be rehearsed. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. There are a lot of people who are really afraid of the rehearsal because they don't know how to do it, number one. And number two, they have this mythology, this thinking, where they think that if I rehearse too much, I will sound like a robot. Is that you? Have you thought those thoughts? I want to be authentic, so I'm not going to rehearse. I just want this to be off the cuff. Well, let me tell you, for the middle to high stakes talks, the off the cuff is hollow. The off the cuff is full of ahs, ums, sound fillers. The off the cuff is not embodied. It's not of you. It's in your head, not in your heart. And when that happens, guess what? You sound robotic. You know, it's that feeling of you're trying to recite something and it's like your brain is downloading and it's downloading and you're trying to remember something and there you are saying the thing over and over and over again and you sound like a robot when you're doing it. This is what people are afraid of because it hasn't downloaded enough, you see. It needs to download on a cellular level. It needs to download into your heart, into your hands, into your hips, and into your feet. How about that? That's love. That level of rehearsal, that's love. So that's the whole picture. This is the ecosystem of love for leadership speaking. Leadership speaking. What's love got to do with it? Now you know. And it's important to keep your eye on this. It should feel good to communicate. You hear me say this all the time, but that's how you know it's loving. That's how you know it's being loved. This gift has been received. Love. Communication's supposed to feel good. If it doesn't feel good, something's got to shift. And you have to make a bold decision to change something that's not working for you. Maybe it's not working for how you think up the thoughts of what you're going to talk about. Maybe something's not working in how you create your content. Maybe something's not working in how you rehearse the delivery of that content. If it doesn't feel right, you have to stop, drop, and make a bold decision to change something. My invitation to you is to change your love. Put more of it into how you create and deliver the content for your peers, your teams, and your stakeholders. The world needs the quality of this work from you. The world is yearning for that human touch, that human connection that we are taking our eyes off of. And we are recklessly neglecting in favor of talking about innovation and technology. Let's hold on tight to what we have to offer as people. We have a communication machine to use. And we have hearts and minds to touch. So that's it. that's my message. That's my feeling for today. And I want to leave you with a challenge. The challenge is to think of where you can pour more love into your speaking opportunities. Is it in how you come up with your thoughts for the actual speaking itself, right? Where you're marinating about what to say? Is it the content that you are creating and how you're creating that content? Or is it in the delivery rehearsal? Where can you pour more love? My loving note is pour it into all of those places. But where do you need to pour more? How about that? Okay, that's your challenge. Go out, roll up your shirt sleeves, and pour more love into your work as a communicator, into your speaking opportunities, and feel the rewards come. That's my message to you. All right, that's all for now. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed delivering it. Subscribe now to Leadership Speaking Radio to be sure not to miss an episode. And don't forget to visit the website www.theleadershipspeakingschool.com to learn more about how we can support you to show up as the best version of yourself every time that you communicate with your peers, teams, and customers. So that's all for now. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, and start pouring that love.